Oh, you guys, I'm still in Seattle. I'm still at the P4 Medicine Clinic. Institute. You guys, I'm still hanging out with Dr. George. I'm still hanging out with Jordan. Right now, we're going to do something super cool. We are going to do a
metabolic exercise stress test.
Metabolic exercise stress test. But instead of Jordan doing it, we're doing it on a bike, not a treadmill. And I changed clothes for this because I'm going to get on that thing. Now, when we're on that thing, they're measuring gases in and out. They're going to measure heart rate, so we're going to put a heart rate strap on. Doc's going to be taking my blood pressure every 2 minutes, so there's blood pressure monitoring going on. I will have a full face mask on, and I'm going to look like Bane from Batman, so I'm not going to be able to talk really good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set you down by the window so you can see everything. And this is how long of a test?
So it should take us, if we do it right, it should be 12 to 15 minutes.
12 to 15 minutes of you watching me on a bike. If you don't want to hang out through some of this, you can always hit the little fast forward button. That's totally fine. But if you do want to hang out through this, you can see exactly what a metabolic stress test looks like. And tell me what we're going to get out of this. What is this going to show us about my meat suit?
It's actually the best test to get your overall sense of vitality, right? Because this test is looking at how a molecule of oxygen goes into your mouth, goes down to the lungs, gets absorbed by the lungs, circulated by the heart, sent out to your skeletal muscle, and even essentially looks at how well your mitochondria processes that oxygen into energy. So it is probably the premium test that we offer here, right? I mean, this is the test that you want to do really well on because it's a great predictor of longevity and overall vitality.
Yeah. Oh shit, I didn't study at all. Let's see how I do on the test. Just kidding, guys. I live at 7,000 feet and I hike the Colorado mountains. I'm at sea level here in Seattle, so I have a superpower called extra red blood cells, or what Lance Armstrong and his teammates called blood doping. So I've got that going on right now in a natural way because I do live at altitude. Although if you know my schedule and you know anything about me, I'm away from home a lot. And a lot of the times when I'm away from home, I am not at altitude. So we're going to see what flying on 6 airplanes a week, we're going to see what hiking when I can, but most of the time hanging out in hotel rooms does for my metabolic rate, and we'll see if I'm still as superhuman as when I broke a world record 17 years ago. So let's get on this thing. You guys are going to watch me get all geared up. Then I'm going to set you by the window. You can hang out with me and watch me suffer for 12 to 15 minutes. Then we'll pick it back up. I'll be sweaty and gross, and then we'll talk about what we're seeing. Yeah? Sound good?
Perfect.
All right, let's get me dressed. I'm going to hang on to you while Jordan puts a weird little strap around my chest parts.
All right. This part's always interesting.
Woohoo, it tickles. Just kidding, guys, it doesn't tickle. So this strap is measuring my actual heart rate from my heart. That's where heart rate comes from, you guys. So sometimes called pulse rate, but it is different. Yes? Heart rate and pulse rate are different?
They are, yeah. Pulse rates at the wrist usually, and people with cardiovascular disease actually there can be a difference between like sort of heart rate, strict heart rate or carotid-based heart rate and peripheral heart rate.
Cool.
From peripheral artery disease.
Now this strap is sending a signal via the waves of the world to what?
Yeah.
Who's picking that up? Is that thing picking it up?
This thing is.
Is it picking it up right now?
So not yet, because we haven't started, but it'll pop up and it should be, it's not showing it yet, but it'll basically come up right in here.
So this is going to show phase and VO2?
Oh yeah, so this shows, I mean, these are only a couple of the widgets. There are hundreds of things we can look at. But what we will really care about, or at least the most important things here, so we're looking at your oxygen uptake, that's what VO2 is here. We're looking at your carbon dioxide basically output, which it's not showing on here, but that will come up. This is your relative VO2 because we want to know, you could have two people with the same VO2s, but one person's big, one person's small. Yeah. So we just divide by body weight to get that. And then this here, RQ, is our respiratory quotient. So it's it's basically kind of looking at the ratio of sort of carbon dioxide output relative to oxygen intake, and that ratio, at least in resting states, is indicative of sort of if you're fasting or not. In this case, this just lets us know that you're basically burning more carbohydrate, you're burning more energy. It just correlates with the difficulty of the activity.
Got it.
So yeah, it's one. There's and when we're done with this, you'll see there's all this information gets stored, and we can graph it, look at it, and do all sorts of things.
I can't wait to show you guys my graphs, but now it's time to put the Bane from Batman mask on. We're gonna do that, then I'm gonna sit down on this bike and put you guys by the window and you can hang out with me. Is that fair? I love that idea. So let's get me strapped into that mask.
All right.
And then I'm gonna stop talking, you guys, because this is gonna be really weird if I keep talking. So you know what, while I get strapped up, let me put you by the window, okay? How's that? Look at you guys. You just hang out right there. I'm gonna get on this thing and get all hooked up. Is that fair?
Right.
All right. Let's pressure. Woohoo! All right. So go ahead and bring this underneath. So there you go.
I'm tired already, you guys.
Right. So go ahead and bring that on. Hold that up on the face. Get nice and comfortable. All right. So this. Good. Oh geez, that feels pretty tight.
No, tighten it up, man.
Oh geez. You sure?
You okay?
Yes,
Seems a
we're
little
good.
excessive.
Not at all. Can you see me, you guys?
I'm sneaking by.
I'm gonna reach you and tip you back just a little bit. It's gonna be really hard to hear me right now, you guys, but I want to make you a little higher so you can hang out with me.
Ah, there it is.
Ta-da! Look at you.
All right, let's get this on.
You want to strap my feet in, or am I just going?
Oh no, you gotta strap them in.
Oh yeah.
Mix it.
Well, the other thing is that I'm not sure if this one is going to strap down or not. We'll find out.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll get it close.
Just get this. I don't know. I probably do a lot of biking. I find it makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah, and your power output for sure.
All right.
We're going to get down here.
So let me take a blood pressure here, resting.
You guys, I feel so important.
You are. Go on. Go on. Go on. Go on. There we go.
Are you good? Got some readings?
Yeah, he's just going to get that. Yeah. So we'll get going here. The first thing I'll say, Dan, so they all know. The first minute is going to be you just sit here. So we just want to get our resting measures first. Then what we'll do is we'll start the test and we'll do basically an unloaded cycling portion. It's about a minute. And then from there, it'll start to ramp. So about every 6 seconds, it's going to increase the wattage by about 3 watts. Or I might have that reversed. Either way, it'll start to step it like that, and then it'll just get harder and harder and harder and harder until we basically, it's like a hill that keeps getting steeper.
Got it.
And it never ends.
Am I standing for any part of
No,
this? Or
so
stay seated?
you gotta stay seated,
Okay.
right?
Damn it.
I know, it would make it a little bit easier. What we got?
115/80. Is that about right for you?
Yeah, I run a little hot.
All right, so let's go ahead. We've got that. Let's get this party started.
So your blood pressure, of course, will go up with exercise,
Yeah.
which is normal, which is good.
That's normal. Or better.
We're seeing 91 beats per minute right now. From all that travel.
From lots of walking around and getting excited. Very good.
This is fun. So when's the last time you did one? Was it
So it's been a long
long time? Yeah. I bet you the technology's gotten better too.
Way
This
better.
is kind of the state of the art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is our unloaded portion. So we've got about a minute. And then we'll do some light. We'll just kind of let you find your pace after that minute.
Okay, should I flex my arms for you or no?
Yeah, so at rest right now, your VO2 is about 6 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute, which is great. And your respiratory quotient is 0.87, which means you haven't had a ton of carbohydrate today.
No.
Yeah, see? There you go. Doesn't lie. Yeah, see, it's like the Inquisition. We're like,
The only carbs I had was some salad.
Yeah.
Because for breakfast it was just eggs and bacon.
Yeah.
Heart rate looks good. All right, we got about 15 seconds, and then we're just going to start doing our you're just going to find that comfortable pedal pace, above 60 RPM at least, but from there, 60 to 80, whatever you're most comfortable with. All right, go ahead and start pedaling. It'll feel a little weird because there's no resistance yet.
Yeah, really weird.
Yep, which is bizarre. But what it'll do is after it gets sort of this resting measure, it's gonna start at 50 watts, and then from there we'll be going up and up and up and up.
And you want to be going around 60, right?
Yeah, I gotta slow
60
down.
to 70.
60.
You're telling a guy who races to slow
I know,
down.
to slow
This is
down.
wild.
Yeah, right, it's hard. Well, and that's why it's honestly more important that you pedal at a comfortable pace. It might affect the wattage a little bit, but we can see the change in everything much more.
We're on video.
Yeah. Oh.
They're in the second suite.
Yeah, okay.
Busy day here. Multiple meetings,
Yeah,
lots of
good
stuff
news.
going on. Yeah.
The seat is so wide.
Yeah, it's not built for. So honestly, what would have been nice is if we could have, get like a cycle trainer in here for you.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more natural. It's more familiar for people who raced and did that type of stuff. All right, we've got about a minute, and then the fun will begin.
56 RPMs, you guys. Woohoo!
It's looking good.
You guys are gonna watch me suffer.
Yeah, this is just the calm before the storm. Almost. Yeah, so it'll be 4 minutes.
4 minutes, sure.
Yeah. Good. Turn this so people can see it.
Yeah, we can show it at the end. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll pull it up at the end.
It swivels, but it's a little hard to see. Yeah, about 20 minutes.
Yes.
We got about 7 seconds, and then you're going to notice it's going to start going up. So the fun begins right about now. It's not a ton of wattage. You can go a little faster.
I'm just watching that green arrow going. That's right in the middle.
Oh, don't worry about the green arrow. You can ignore the green arrow.
Got like 125 over 85.
Feeling pretty good?
Yeah.
Excellent. So we're at about 50 watts. Heart rate still nice and steady.
Still pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You can feel. I can feel the tension increasing.
Yeah, it's slow and steady. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's
okay.
annoying.
It is annoying. Because you never can, like, you can't set pace, right?
Yeah,
It's just
at
like,
all.
ugh. I'm going to stepwise test here. 20 seconds, 3 seconds for the next two. Blood pressure, yeah, 6 minutes.
I'm okay with my arm like this. You can get at me.
Oh, yeah. Good.
It's really hard not to rock back and
Yeah,
forth
130 over 90.
Right?
at this pace because it's hard to stabilize your core when you're kind of going slow.
When you're just sort of like, there's no real like global tension. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's on a boat.
So there's a bike race in Bismarck called the Great American Bike Race. It is a stationary bike race.
Really?
So they have hundreds of stationary bikes, teams of 10. They use it as a fundraiser, but I took third place one year.
That's impressive.
I mean, you just sit and spin no resistance for 20 minutes as fast as you can. And the winner is who gets the most miles. No resistance. Yeah, it's ridiculous because you're spinning at hundreds and hundreds of RPM as fast as you can for 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's gross.
That's a sweaty gym, right? At the end.
So,
All right.
90 watts.
All right, we're just starting.
I know, right?
Oh.
We're getting to the fun part a little bit. Now you got about 40 seconds. It's already getting up there a little. Well, it's not getting up there, but it's starting to. Your heart's working.
What am I at?
125.
So, you guys, when I sit in my sauna, my heart rate gets up to 134.
We haven't gotten there yet.
So we're not quite there, but this is it's getting harder, I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, 132 over 90.
So it went up just 2.
Yeah. At this point, we'd expect your systolic to maybe go up a little more, and especially once we get close to the max
peak,
point,
yeah.
the diastolic should remain pretty consistent.
No, it'll go up.
Good. Well, now we're at 136, so now we're at sauna levels.
There you go, guys. All it took was how many minutes?
We are at 8. 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Or, that's what I hit after 20 minutes in the sauna. I should shut up and focus on breathing. I'm busy talking to you guys.
It's harder. We're at 125 watts, roughly.
Yeah.
No, they're not even getting that close to each other. So we're not getting the anaerobic threshold. Or at least the first anaerobic threshold. Yeah, 30 seconds. 144 beats per minute.
We're going all the way to 200 today, my friend.
It's always fun.
Yeah, 140 over 90.
How are we doing over there? Excellent. They're over 150 watts.
It's getting up there.
Heart rate's 150. VO2's almost 30.
5 times higher than resting.
Yes. Let's get there. 160 beats per minute.
Kind of neat. You met the guy that has the most studied poop on the planet,
That's
right?
pretty cool.
Maybe Richard should be another
An
podcast.
interview for sure.
Yeah, he knows more about microbiome and like one person's poop
It's crazy.
than anyone on the planet.
175 watts.
How many watts are we going to?
Until you can't do it anymore.
Till my legs stop?
Yep, literally, yep.
These are quitting further faster
Yes,
than this is.
and that's not uncommon. That's how they get you on these ones.
How many minutes are we at?
12. We're just before 12. So you're at 12 minutes right now.
Feels like about 170 here, huh?
155 over 95.
So we hit our first anaerobic threshold.
Yep.
There you go, Dan. It's looking good. Almost to the 200 watt mark.
You notice I stopped talking.
Kind of a little quicker if it feels more natural.
That's good.
Good. You got it.
These are going to get tired real soon.
200 watts. Yep, again, remember, hold that finger up and you're right about that.
Yeah.
You got about a minute left. Ooh.
Yeah, 200's tough.
It is very hard. Over 200, that's for sure.
Yeah, no one beats the machine.
Yeah.
There you go. Keep it up. You got it. You got it. Ooh, 214 watts.
It's good. Keep it up.
$220 watts. 20 seconds. 1 minute. Okay. So we're at 1340. We got to get to 1440. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it up. This is where it really counts. You got it. Oh yes. Very good. Keep it up. You got it. 230 watts. There you go. As you're pushing through the ceiling. I like it. That's strong work.
Let's quit at 15. What am I at?
Okay. That gives us 30 seconds. 32 seconds.
Got it.
Push, push, push.
170 over 100. Yeah, blood pressure's up there. That's good.
That means you're working. You're almost there. And then we're going to go into recovery. Ooh, 15 seconds. Keep it up.
How many watts are you?
Compensation 250 almost.
Wow.
Almost there.
Yeah, look at that curve. Look at the red
Yep.
go. Yeah.
4, 3, go, 2, 1, and we're going into recovery. Keep pedaling. Nice and easy. It should bring it down. It's going to bring the wattage down. Nice cadence. Just a comfortable cadence.
Good job.
good.
Well done. Well done.
That was work, man.
Yes, it is. The resting program.
Oh, the heart rate hit.
Yeah, that went up. Looks like.
Did I get over 200?
Let's see here. Heart rate it was in the 180s.
I got it.
Against the leg
Yeah, legs
muscles,
are
right?
tired.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's muscular fatigue or cardiovascular
Yeah.
fatigue. So now we're just basically watching to see how your system recovers, which is just as important. As
140 over 80. That's good. Your blood pressure is recovering.
Yes.
140 over 80.
Just give it a few minutes here. We just want to watch these baseline values come down. We've been resting.
Yeah, 135 over 85. Yep.
One more.
Yeah.
Good. Almost there.
Good test.
And our you got about 1.5, which is what we're looking for. It's good.
$128 over 84. Yeah, that's good fast recovery.
So we're just give it about one more minute.
Oh, here's
we'll
whatever.
be done.
At this pace, I could do whatever. There's no hill.
Yes, the hill on my.
Yeah, you really got like separation there, you know?
Well, that's good. Is my guess. Yeah, you still do a lot of like interval training, right? So that's what we're seeing is you can sustain an anaerobic state for quite a while before you get to the break point.
You know what what we saw is, I don't know if you caught that part of his talk, right? He really talks about Tabata style interval training. Like, I haven't seen that kind of separation there, right? I mean, it's you sustain an anaerobic state.
We'll have to see if this is actually a respiratory compensation point.
Okay.
But we'll know when we look at it. You can see it soon.
Yeah, 130 over 85.
Okay.
All right.
All right, go ahead and bring it down.
Woohoo!
Very nice. Have it for you for now. Yeah, so pop off these bottom ones. Just bring it over. I will grab that from you.
It's gonna be sweaty and gross. Look at that, you guys.
That's how it works.
How is that for you? Did you hang on and watch the whole thing? You guys want to see some really cool stuff? What, as I talk and there's sweat just spewing from me. Let's take a look at what all that means, what they were looking at, what the graphs look like, why am I so sweaty, and let's take a look at some of the data that you're going to be able to get from something like that, and what that means for now, and what that means for long term, what that means for, hey, what should I be doing for exercise? Am I doing enough? Could I be doing more? Should I back it off a little? So let's take a look at, we'll have these guys tell you what all that stuff means. And now it's all you. It's the Jordan Show.
Oh, sweet. We love that. So there's a lot of information in here that we can look at. So the first thing is the most obvious level is just what was the maximal amount. So when we hit our max, where were we? So here we're seeing, this is not quite right because it likes to kind of interpolate, but it was right around 40 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute. So this means this is a number that marks how much oxygen was Dan taking up, utilizing in his system to sustain the workload and to sustain the output that he was at. And that's exactly what we're getting there. So this is sort of our top value. But what's really interesting is we care about thresholds. So you might wonder, what are thresholds? So thresholds, I'm sure people who follow you are probably familiar, or anyone who's athletic has heard the term anaerobic threshold tossed around.
Right.
So these are the points essentially where our body goes from using oxidative metabolism as its energy source to more anaerobic metabolism, so more carbohydrate metabolism to fuel the muscle cells, because anaerobic pathways are much quicker, they produce energy much faster, but they come at a detriment, and that is there's much more metabolic buildup, there's much more fatiguing agents, you can't sustain it indefinitely. So what that tells us though is in a healthy person, you know, we want to see, this is, at this graph here, it's a bunch of dots, right? We want to see the threshold over to the right. So we use a couple of things to determine our thresholds. So what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to use auto detect. Now this thing's not perfect, but what we want to see, these three graphs, we want to look at the sort of a break point, so you'll kind of see it almost makes a V. Don't worry about this number here. Care about this number. So right in here is most likely our first break point. And this is sort of when we go into the anaerobic threshold. And the reason we know that is because of these other graphs. And it's really, I mean, it gets kind of technical, but what we're looking at is the blue dots represent Dan's ventilation relative to his oxygen uptake, and the red, like little triangles, represent Dan's ventilation relative to his carbon dioxide output. So it gets kind of weird, but what we're looking at is the point at which he starts to breathe harder to take in more oxygen. So blue goes up because you're breathing harder, you're bringing in more oxygen, but you're not producing a lot more metabolites, so you're not blowing off more CO2. So blue goes up. Right here, red stays about the same. So that's our first threshold. Our second threshold is the point at which we basically start to hyperventilate. So if we go over here, oh geez, come on. There we go. These here are basically looking at the end tidal pressure for both oxygen and carbon dioxide. And don't worry too much about that. What we care about is the point at which CO2 goes down. So what happens is your body has built up so much of these metabolites, it's last-ditch effort to try to keep you from getting super fatigued and super acidotic, which will basically cause you to fail, right? Your muscles can't work. You start to hyperventilate. And anyone who's maybe been unfortunate enough to experience hyperventilation, fingers get tingly, things get kind of weird. That happens because you're blowing off so much CO2. So we know this point here where this goes down, that means Dan was starting to blow off way more carbon dioxide. So we use this as an indicator for that second threshold, which is basically that hyperventilatory threshold. And so that's right about in here. So we can see kind of where these go up again, where this breaks. We've got these three things to kind of get us gauged onto where we are. I think this is probably more here. Okay. So what's cool about that, I know that's a lot of stuff. This table here is really important because what we can see is at the anaerobic threshold, what was his heart rate? It was 152 beats per minute. What was the wattage on the bike? It was about 154 watts. And when did it occur? So it occurred at about heart rate at about 84% of max heart rate, or at about 75% of his max VO2. So that's really good. That means that this occurred further to the right People who are maybe unhealthy, this would occur more around 50%. Or people who are severely out of shape or have cardiovascular disease or pulmonary disease, this can occur even around 25%, 20%, really low.
Wow.
Which is not great. But it's even cooler now is that point at which you basically, respiratory compensation, RC here, this just means failure is inevitable. You cannot escape it. Your body cannot keep up. It cannot clear metabolites fast enough. And that occurred at about 87% of his max, which is very, very good. That means that you can sustain high levels of output without failing. Because it's not necessarily always about this peak level. It's about how much of it can we utilize for how long. And these numbers, the further they are towards that max, the higher your percentage, basically where these occur at, it means you can sustain higher outputs for longer periods of time, which is what we're seeing here.
Look at that, you guys.
Yeah, geez. It's a lot.
All that. That's good. And I was on that bike for what, 17, 18 minutes, and you get all that information. What's cool about that is you can look at your exercise program and go, yeah, this sucks. I'm lifting too much weights. I'm not doing enough cardio, or I'm doing way too much long distance cardio. I'm not doing enough short burst, high intensity interval training. And you can see when you look at what I've got going on here, I'm a former distance guy. My world record was on a treadmill for 2 straight days of movement on a treadmill. So you can see that I'm used to the output for long periods of time. But what I've shifted in recent past, especially living at altitude, work out for short bursts, super high intensity, and be done very, very quickly. And you can see how that might be, when you look at these results, indicative of somebody who trains like that. Obviously, if you're looking at me right now, I don't have huge muscles. So my goal isn't to be big, my goal is to last a very long time. And we know that this is one of the indications of how long will you last. This number is very, very important to your longevity because it's an indication of how strong your cardiovascular system is. The stronger that system, all kinds of cool things happen, right? Less oxidative load throughout the day, lower pulse, lower blood pressure typically at rest, which means all kinds of good things that your heart isn't working so hard while you're just sitting at your desk. So you guys, I'm going to encourage you, if you don't find this clinic here in Seattle, and again, we are at the P4 Medicine Institute, okay? If you can't find these guys, you reach out to me and let's book a trip to Seattle and get here. If not, find somebody local that does this type of testing. If you don't know what to call it, tag them in this video and send it to them or show it to them and say, I want to do this. Because this is very, very important. This is more important than some of the tests the doctors are running right now, because it's more important for how long you will live. And that is the only metric that matters for us mammals, is how long will we last and how healthy will we be doing that. I think I'm going to finish up my day here by cleaning up some of the nonsense going on, changing clothes, and we might do one more of these so that you guys can see a little bit about what this looks like in the long term. So we will see you guys really soon. Take care. Say bye. Bye.